we transition into sort of the interview process. This is a quote now from the Justice DeLuca, who was the presiding judge over the trial of Adam Strong, which was resolved, hasn't been sentenced, but convicted in March. And just setting the stage for sort of the interview itself. So this is his comment after watching the interview, which is very extensive, about 12 hours long. It talks about the patience and the fairness in terms of talking about this incident. And then as well, from the flip side, there's no oppression, no trickery, there's no impermissible techniques and so on, so easily admissible as well. And so this is a very lengthy interview, and this is sort of the feedback getting from from the judge in the case. So with all this evidence, this complex type case, and all the moving parts, just walk us through kind of your preparation for that interview and the type of person you're going to talk to, organizing things. Like, how did that unfold, and how did you work through that sort of planning process?
Sure, and I just want to point out, Joe, that what you just showed on screen there, that from the judge, from Justice DeLuca, that was from his ruling on admissibility. That's where those quotes came from when he ruled on the admissibility of the statement. So, preparation for this interview. I should maybe start by saying my role at the time, back in 2017, for the last 8 years of my career as a polygraph examiner. So my role within the police service was to assist other units with their investigations, but mainly their interviews. And so my preparation for this one really went back to day one. Once I heard that a torso had floated up in the harbor, I immediately got in touch with our homicide unit, found out who the lead investigator was that was assigned to that new project. And I got myself access to all the files on the computer drive so I could follow along with the case. So it really started the day that the torso was found. And this went on for months. I stayed in touch with the investigative team. I would attend upstairs where the homicide unit offices were, and I'd sit in their morning meetings, their morning meetings, so I could learn about progressions and updates in the case, just so I could follow along. Because as anyone who's been involved in any sort of homicide investigation, you can appreciate that there are literally thousands of reports generated by actions from the investigative team members. So you wouldn't want to leave that till the day before an interview to try and wrap your head around everything. So I followed along as best I could amongst my other duties. And that went on for several months. Now, unfortunately for me, I was out of town over the Christmas break of 2017. I had gone away to our family cottage. So that's when the plumbing backed up and Adam was arrested on indignity. So I was not available then. I was 3.5 hours out of town. And that's when Adam was interviewed by 2 detectives from the homicide unit. And again, he made no inculpatory statements there, just citing advice from his counsel. So I stayed immersed in the case. And, as we started to get things back from our forensic identification unit, from the Center of Forensic Science, more, kind of tangible pieces of evidence, I just sort of began a little interview plan of what I might want to use. As we learn more about different pieces of evidence, I would just kind of make a note of this is what I want to use in an interview should the day come. And so I kept track of that. I began plugging in those various pieces of evidence. I consulted through the lead investigator, consulted with a forensic psychiatrist to try and learn a little bit more about interviewing strategies for Adam Strong, now that we had delved into his background since he was in custody, and learned a little bit more about him. And once I was aware the charges were going to be upgraded to 2 counts of first-degree murder, and I knew that, fairly, I would say probably by the late summer, early fall of 2018, then I really began to ramp up my preparations. I began to prepare my PowerPoint presentation. There's probably not too many big interviews I've gone into in the last 6 or 7 or 8 years where I didn't prepare a PowerPoint to take in with me. I take in my laptop here, and I have kind of a case overview on my PowerPoint, evidence on my PowerPoint, things that I want to use to generate dialogue and conversation with the person across from me, all built into a PowerPoint presentation to take in the room. So I began working on that. And once I knew the date of the actual upgrade of the charges where he was going to be released on his indignity and rearrested and charged for the 2 first-degree murder counts. Once we had that date firmed up, I requested a member of the homicide team be assigned to me for a couple of days. Because there was thousands of photographs, thousands of things on our drive, I just needed some assistance in getting things pulled off there so I could plug them into my PowerPoint. So I had a homicide team member kind of get the information that I had requested. I'd like this, this, and this, and they pulled that off for me so I could plug it into my PowerPoint. And that's sort of that stage of my preparation. I mean, other than that, obviously, you have to be well versed in rules around admissibility, and I'm sure most people who are watching this that are from police agencies are fine with that. But it's one thing to have somebody go in the room that can talk to somebody, but you also have to have a good understanding of the law and what you can and cannot do in that room. So obviously that was not an issue for me. I've been doing interviews for a number of years. And what's important to remember is Adam Strong knew that we sort of had him on the indignity. So the indignity charge we pretty well had, certainly for Rory, and maybe not for Candace. We didn't know much at the time. But and I just point that out, folks, because he wasn't afraid to talk about things if it surrounded the indignity, but he was very careful about what not to say that could be inculpatory to the actual causing the unlawful death of either one of those young ladies. So it's important that you realize that he wasn't so loose-lipped to talk about anything surrounding the indignity, and he obviously would have been made aware of that from his counsel that, it looks like they got you pretty good on the indignity, but the battle would have been to try and prove that he had actually killed these young ladies. So my preparation was basically follow the reports as they came in, identify key pieces of evidence that I thought would be useful to hold his interest, to create dialogue, to get a reaction, and draft my interview plan and roll with it. Not unlike any other interview I do for really any other offense.
Yeah, thanks. So obviously not something you're just going to parachute into and start talking. Clearly a lot of preparation ahead of time for something that complex, and turned into obviously a 12-hour interview.
No, I just want to jump in there when you said that. It reminded me, it baffles me, and I see it sometimes still in different agencies, that as folks could understand, a 15-month investigation with a team of 8 or 10 investigators, never mind the ident workers, you're talking a $2.5 million case as far as the expenditure put into it, the effort, which we never mind because it's for the victims, right? But it always baffled me that the day before a takedown, the day before the arrest, there would be like, who wants to interview him? And there's been virtually no preparation going into a huge interview where there's been so many resources expelled, and they treat the interview almost as an afterthought. That always baffled me.
Yeah, I don't have the answer, but yeah, it's certainly
no, there's no answer. It shouldn't happen.
Should happen. And so again, this is such a vital part of this case, but so many other cases, is